Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a 10-game slate here in the NBA. In this one, we're taking a look at the Wolves headed to LA, taking on those Clippers. Definitely get into all of that stuff and our player props video that we have, another game video as well. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have our great written content for you guys all season long, and our odds finder tool that you can use to make sure you're getting the best juice back and best odds available on all those U.S. sports books on your NBA bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this 10-game slate and then get into the Wolves and the Clips.
Yeah, we had a few leans here on the slate. I'll mention them as I go through the lines. We got Pistons +3 at the Hornets, not touching that one. Warriors -1 at the Pacers with the back-to-back situation there. Totals all the way at 238. Like the Magic, +2.5 at home against the struggling Hawks. Trae Young might not even play. He's dealing with a back issue. Like the Raptors, -5 at home against the Kings, who are on a back-to-back, although OG Anunoby might be out. Knicks are +4 at the Bulls, like the Bulls if Jalen Brunson's out. Blazers -7.5 at Spurs. Heat -2.5 at the Thunder without Jimmy Butler. The other game we break down, Dallas is -2 at home against the road-tripping Cavs. Total only 215 there. The Wizards +10 at the Nuggets. And then this game, we got Wolves +6.5, maybe 7 if you can get it, at the Clippers. Total hovering around 222. Bet down a little bit because the Clippers are coming off a defensive masterpiece against the Celtics. They held them to 93 points. And I just want to kind of zig away from that, because the idea that, oh man, the Clippers are back. Kawhi and PG both played. They shut down the top offense in the league, held them below 100 for the first time all season. Therefore, they're just going to continue to play these like low-scoring, dominant games, and we expect the Clippers cover in and under. I don't think so. I mean, I think one or two of those guys might sit, or they might just have their minutes managed a lot, because this is the front end of a back-to-back with Phoenix coming to town tomorrow. And Phoenix, while struggling, is definitely a team that the Clippers would like to stick it to. Everybody would like to stick it to Chris Paul, the most obnoxious player in the NBA. So I do look at this as sort of a trap game, or just something that the Clippers aren't going to take that seriously. And we know they don't take the regular season seriously on a consistent basis. And that's why they're below 500 as home favorites against the spread since last year. They actually have a terrible record against the spread with a rest advantage since last year. Sort of in this spot, there was a consistent trend where they would fail to cover on the front end of a back-to-back and then come back on 0 days rest and win all of a sudden. I'm a little hesitant to back the Wolves, of course, especially if D'Angelo Russell isn't able to go. I mean, he hasn't missed a game yet, but he's questionable with knee soreness. The thing is, if he is active, he's been playing really well on offense and been a bit of a turnstile on defense. -13 in that second one against Portland. Portland had 133 points, I believe. Dame had 37 with Russell trying to guard him. So you asked me where are the Clippers going to score if Kawhi or PG are limited. Anybody can score on D'Lo right now, I guess, and in general. The Wolves, interestingly, are limiting what you'd think the Clippers would like to do in terms of mid-range. They're 6th in 2-point percentage allowed. They allow the 6th fewest paint points as well. And they're vulnerable in terms of free throws, but Clippers not really getting to the line in general. So I do kind of lean towards the over here again. I kind of look at a teaser as a bit of a safer play here to get the Wolves all the way at +10 and the total at 218. I mean, this is a Minnesota team that does tend, when it rains, it pours on them. So maybe you don't need that teaser because they tend to play games that go really high over the total as you look at their 4-2 record to the over as road dogs this year. And those games have gone over by 13 points per game. Now, the Clippers are a tough defense to beat, but Anthony Edwards is starting to cook here. He's actually shooting 10 percentage points higher on the road versus at home. He had a huge game combining with D'Lo for 60 points when they beat the Clippers in the play-in last year. And that one still got to 213. Of course, it's a one and done atmosphere, and they're missing Karl Anthony Towns, but he's really sucked against the Clippers. Like Ty Lue definitely knows how to play against him, and he also knows how to exploit what Rudy Gobert does, not necessarily him, but the fact that he doesn't have good perimeter defenders around him. Ty Lue knows how to execute a scheme to get good shots. So I think both offenses will be pretty good here, and I would expect the Clips to lapse a little bit on their defense.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hate predicting if Kawhi or PG are going to play, and so therefore I hate predicting Clippers games. But I think there might be a little bit of a momentum in terms of Kawhi playing. PG plays when he can. Kawhi, I have no idea. So if Kawhi is playing, I feel a little bit better about really points. I know we talked about, them, obviously Kawhi and PG being the defenders that they are. And we talked about that before they took on Boston, that's the best team in the NBA suited to guard Boston if anybody's able to do it. And they finally kept that team to under 100 points. If they're playing again, in this one, I still like offense. I don't think that they're going to have the same level of like Kawhi and PG aren't going to be like, let me go ahead and turn on my defensive motor, so that I can make sure, that I'm hanging with backup point guards on Minnesota, or obviously Ant can do his thing, but even Ant's been somewhat struggling, I guess, getting a little bit better since Cat has been out, and that's where you would look for some points as well. Obviously, he's had some struggles the other night as they were just basically struggling against the Blazers in those two games in a row that they lost. But yeah, when they are away dogs right now, I think it's pretty interesting that the total is going over by an average of about 13 points or so, even though they've covered 4 out of 6, or they've gone over in 4 out of 6 as away dogs this season. And like I said, that margin of over the total there is about 13 a game. There's just no defense for them, especially on the road, as we've been talking about. I mean, it's been a little bit better as of late. The thing that scares me about the over is just the change in pace for them. But yeah, that's not really an issue in terms of the way that they've been scoring on the road. They've been getting, about 115 to 118 or so in their last roughly 6 road games, including obviously some huge totals against teams like the Wizards, those 2 Blazers games as well. So I think you look at the totals that they're getting here in Minnesota, and obviously most of them are at least 230. I think the lowest total they've had is since the end of November, the last week in November is 225. So everything is high for them for a reason, and it's just that lack of defense. It's been a little bit better, but to your point, when you look at the way that Ty Lue has played against the Jazz as well, if you want to see how he's played, coached rather, against the Jazz and coached against Rudy Gobert, his teams are still scoring a decent amount of points. I mean, it looks like they're averaging about 113, 114 against a Jazz team that was playing a lot better at defense last year with Rudy, and it's not the same even with Rudy this season in terms of the way that they're scheming that defense. In about 5 or 6 games ago, actually right when Cat went out, was when Chris Finch the head coach, started talking about how it was time to stop making it about Rudy Gobert on defense and start having Rudy play within the team system more than the team adhere to how Rudy plays. It's worked a little bit. If you look at since Cat has been out, there's still just too many games that they've given up about 125 or more in that time frame as well. So I think there's plenty of reason with Kawhi and PG playing to like the offense a bit more as well. I know we talk about them being good at defense, but like I said, I don't think that this is a game that they're bringing it on defense, especially ahead of playing the Suns. You might even see Kawhi or PG not play too much later in the game if they're not too concerned about it, as was the case when they lost to Orlando in OT, and Kawhi still played 30 minutes out of a possible 45, right? So you're still going to keep guys off the floor like Kawhi and PG when you are trying to face the Suns next game, who are ripe for the taking right now after another loss to the Rockets the other night. So I think that they've got a pretty big target on their back, to your point, just as much as the Warriors. At least the Warriors have won something with that chip on their shoulder. I'm not really sure why the Suns have such a big chip after losing 1 finals, but that's what I would be saying the Clips are geared up for based on how they've played Kawhi this season. Like I said, he came in for that game against Orlando and played a few more minutes than I think they wanted to, because I think they would have rather have him there for the Heat in that next game. They just went to OT, played him a couple minutes too many, and I think in this point they're ready to sort of keep them on the bench if they need to, and continue to gear up for that Suns game.
Yeah, down the stretch is where Minnesota's been scoring pretty well too. I mean, when they're in the game, they have those guys that can create. And interestingly, they're a little bit more efficient. I mentioned Ant has a better offensive rating. The entire team has a much better offensive rating of 115 on the road this year, which is a big difference from home. Slower pace, but the efficiency has kept them up and hit some of those overs, as you say. And that's key for the Clippers here, who are struggling in terms of 3-point defense last three, despite getting those guys back up to 35%. And they're up to third in their 3-point shooting, though. So, I said that Minnesota doesn't give up what the Clippers like to do. Well, they're suddenly turning into more of a 3-point shooting team, and they're 9th in offensive efficiency the last three, and that has a lot to do with getting their guys back, who may or may not play here. But either way, the offense is starting to come around a little bit after being dead last in everything. And they're dead last in paint points, but I don't think you're going to be challenging Rudy Gobert in the paint that much. You're going to be moving it around to get the shots you want. So, yeah, I think I feel pretty good about plus 10 with the total a little lower.
Yeah, that's fine. A little bit of a teaser in this one, just because this total it seems somewhat properly set, but I think 225 I feel good about, so I like the over anyway. But if you want to get a few more points for Minnesota to be able to cover as well, I understand that. I'm scared of this Minnesota team. I don't know what I'm getting. I'm scared of the Clippers not playing anybody and how they're going to do their rotations. But I think over 223 is at least fair. I'm probably going to stay away from trying to guess Minnesota to cover with or without D'Lo in this one. But that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Coming back at you each and every weekday this season. So until we see you next, happy betting.